through the Asia-Pacific IPv6 Task Force meeting here at apricot/APNIC 35. My name is Michael Biber, and I'm very pleased to welcome you. I'm the acting chair of the task force, and with me is Miwa Fujii, who is with APNIC and is the secretary of the IPv6 Asia-Pacific IPv6 Task Force, and through Miwa's good work, we continue to thrive and have these opportunities to meet today. So there's just a couple of quick housekeeping issues that I might run through very quickly now. So again, mobile phones, if you could set them to vibrate or off, that would be good. Also a reminder that the lightning talks are still open for tomorrow. So if anybody has anything that they passionately would like to get off their chest, then they're more than welcome to do a lightning talk. Don't need slides, although if you have slides, we'll use them. But please feel free to actually do that. As you're aware, I think you're pretty much okay for the Wi-Fi access now. The SSID that just says Apricot is actually an 802.11a network, and mostly only those of you who have Macintoshes will probably connect to that, or Apples of some kind. The rest of us use Apricot B or one of the other services, so the people who are condemned to using Windows. Okay, we have a Q&A session, and we should have some time for questions, although we're pretty tight with the number of speakers that we have to talk to today. We would ask you to go to the microphone and to state your name and affiliation clearly for the transcripts and for the people who are there. There's also a social event, which I think most of you would be aware of. There's the APNIC social event, which is actually on this evening. And most of you will have the details, but see the staff if you need to know what the specific details are, and look forward to joining you tonight. Okay, it's time to move on. Do we have go up there? Okay. Did that transfer correctly? You can still hear me? Okay, that's good. Still some people coming in. Find your seats, and we'll be shooting off this afternoon's session. So I'm assuming that the left mouse click will make this happen. So I should have actually tried that one out. How about that one? Okay, thank you for that. So the program for today will be a short greeting from me and also a Secretariat follow-up from Miwa, and which will be quite quick. And then we have 8 presentations to go through. These will start with economy updates, which we now make as a regular feature for the Asia-Pacific IPv6 Task Force. And we have a number of countries and economies who are going to be just reporting on what's actually happening or key issues that are developing in their particular environments. If you are here, the people who speak here are not official representatives of their countries. If you are here from another country and you would like to make a comment or to contribute to this part of the program, although our time is fairly tight, we would welcome any contributions. So if you have any comments that you would like to make about IPv6 deployment in your own countries, and you feel you would like to share that with us in this forum, either today or at a future forum, then we'd be delighted to have you here. We do not expect you to be representing your country in any official capacity, and so we just expect you to be sensible about the things that you say. So feel free to actually add to that. And then we'll have a quick closing period, and then we'll break for the afternoon tea session before the rest of the program continues on. I'd like to officially welcome all of you who are here physically. I'd like to welcome the people who are here virtually as well. We have quite a number of people, I think, who are actually coming into the program remotely, courtesy of the technology provided by APNIC, and we really appreciate the tech support that we're getting to actually make that happen. Unfortunately, I was not able to physically go to the last 2 APNIC meetings in the Asia-Pacific IPv6 Task Force, but I was the last one in Phnom Penh and the one before that in New Delhi. But I was able to join them remotely, courtesy of the technology facilities. So If you or any of your colleagues back home don't have the ability to actually be here at one of these meetings, we really encourage you to join in. And the technology is getting better and better all the time to enable us to have you contribute, see the slides, see the translations in real time that are provided through these facilities. So we're very happy with that. There's a lot of challenges for IPv6. This is an interesting community to talk to because for mostly, I think for certainly 97% of this community that we're talking to here at APNIC, they don't need to be convinced that IPv6 is something that they have to do. They may not be doing it now. Almost all of you, I imagine, would have to say that it's in your future and that you will actually have to do that. Okay, and we have a number of challenges for IPv6. One is to continue the momentum that's actually been built over this period, but there's a long way to go, and a lot of people are still fairly slow to actually get off this environment. So I realise that we're generally speaking to the converted here, or if somebody has an alternative view, we'd like to hear that. That would be a useful debate to have. There is a cost to maintaining multiple protocols, and at some point in the future this cost will become excruciating, and this is when I think the world transition to IPv6 will become an unstoppable phenomenon. It's going to happen. There's very little doubt about that. It's a question of timing and how much pain people are willing to suffer. A lot of this pain is actually developed through NAT and through the inability to actually deal with a lot of what are fast becoming legacy applications. And we've had a number of presentations, and I think we're getting some today that will actually talk about that. There are a lot of choices in transition technologies, and we do have issues that we need to come to about the best way to actually take this transition process forward. So that's something that is a dialogue, and that's part of the topic that we would really like to do. So the challenge is what our community generally can actually do to address these specific issues. We all know it's going to happen. It's a question now of actually buckling down and actually making that happen. And we hope to use the Asia Pacific IPv6 Task Force as a forum to exchange the community information for the community of interest. There are a lot of very good things happening, and we need the positive stories that you can tell. We don't need marketing spin, but we do need the reality on the ground, what people are really doing. And I'd like to thank all of the speakers for sharing their IPv6 stories today and throughout the whole of the APNIC Apricot event. Okay. Miwa, were you going to do the Secretary update? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Miwa from APIPv6 Task Force's Secretariat hats on. APIPv6 Task Force always try to provide a forum to exchange the positive IPv6 stories. And so far, we conducted at every APNIC meeting and Apricot meeting, so I wouldn't go through details. All the past events are listed in the www.ap-ipv6.taskforce.org from that website. So please share with your colleagues in your own economies when you go back. And in August 2012 meeting in Cambodia, we had 53 on-site participants, 17 remote, and 5 presentations on economy update, 2 presentations on industry update, and 1 presentation on regional update. And this APIPv6 Task Forum start getting the population amongst the APNIC community, and even before we start announcing the next meeting, we start inquiry from the potential next speakers. So if you have interesting stories to share at the next APIPv6 Task Force meeting, please feel free to send me email anytime. All right, and yes, these items which are listed on this page is that either Mike or myself participated to support the regional or each economy's IPv6 event and presented some positive stories from IPv6 Task Force. Right, that's it from the Secretariat. Thank you. So the next speaker.
I'm the next speaker. We'll get there. Oh, hello again. I actually am changing hats at the moment, so as well as being acting chair of the IPv6 Asia Pacific IPv6 Task Force. I'm also president of the IPv6 Forum in Australia, and a number of things. So I'm going to talk to the Australian economy update for the IPv6 activities. I'm actually going to keep this pretty short because we have a large number of speakers to actually come, and we need to finish on time, and we can take it from there. That didn't quite work. Okay, so much for that image. I was going to point out where Australia was and what it was not, but this graphic actually hasn't translated correctly. We obviously have some sort of issue there. I shall move on. That's where Australia used to be. That's Tasmania, which is actually part of Australia, and that's not New Zealand. But that didn't work. It's looked pretty good on the PowerPoint. We'll take it from there. Just some quick statistics. In Australia, since 1999, there's been 564 IPv6 prefixes allocated in Australia. But of those, only 201 have actually been implemented, and they're actually seen in the public routing databases. 9 have been returned to APNIC over that period of time, but there's 354 that are allocated that in fact are not being used, or at least not being used in the public internet. A number of them may be being used in private LAN implementations or other sorts of things that don't actually see the public internet. But there's a very large number of allocated prefixes. So we see these statistics about the numbers of prefixes that are actually been allocated, and they actually don't mean very much. You know, well more than 50% of the Australian prefixes, for example, are not actually advertised to the public internet. 215 of these have been allocated to networking and hosting and colo companies, and a number of cloud providers that are actually there. One could say they may even be hoarding IPv6 addresses, which is kind of counterproductive. 55 of them are government departments, 40 are various different industry businesses that are actually out there, large mining companies, airlines, a number of different organisations. 17 of them are finance companies or insurance companies in the finance sector. For some reason or another, 13 are education institutions, including the Catholic Schools Education Commission in Australia. 9 come from state governments, so there's 55 federal government departments and 9 state government departments, and 5 of them are from the .org.au community. So even though we do see these statistics, and you will see lots of graphs, and you will see lots of growth in the allocations of a large number of prefixes, they don't really translate to people who are out there using IPv6. By far the widest deployment of IPv6 in Australia is from the federal government. And the Australian Government Information Management Office has actually mandated the use of IPv6 in a number of government departments. They actually mandated that all government departments be IPv6 capable by the end of 2012, and in truth they made that by about 40%. Now, some people have criticised this in saying that it failed, that the mandate was for them to fail, but the fact that they got 40% over the line of the 110 major budget line government departments, I think is a remarkable achievement. So I think that that's to be applauded. Of the remaining departments, of the 110 government budget funded departments in the federal government, 32 of them are reporting that they're more than 50% complete. Some of them are just about to launch their IPv6 production networks, but quite a few of them. So there's certainly the bulk of Australian government federal departments have deployed IPv6, are in the process of actually finalising the final deployment of V6 services. Some of them are actually moving to V6 only. I know of 4 government departments that are actually running the whole production environment, gateways, web servers, internet, local services internally, are now running it exclusively on IPv6, and they treat IPv4 as a legacy protocol in their network. And they have a number of different techniques that they use for doing that. And at the moment they're reporting good progress, and the business hasn't failed, and they haven't dropped off the edge of the known world. It seems to have actually worked pretty well for them, and we're getting positive reports. The Australian federal government actually report this by percentage of people who are actually compliant in a number of different areas. For the sake of time, I won't go through this, but these presentations are available This is from used by courtesy of John Hillier from the Department of Finance in the government, in the Australian government, AGM IMO. John reported on these statistics at the IPv6 Summit in October in Melbourne, and all of those presentations and all the graphs and the details are actually available. So they've made some good progress. I wouldn't say spectacular achievement or a fantastic success, but certainly made some very solid progress over that period. One of the other activities within Australia, and again, for the sake of time, I'll be quick, but one of the other activities which is of interest to the deployment of networking services is the National Broadband Network. This is a fibre to the premises initiative of the current government to spend some, depending on who you talk to, either 36 billion or 50 billion dollars. And they're actually, although it's a layer 2 network, they're actually providing layer 3 services in this network for their customers, which are the ISPs and the retail service providers, such as yourselves. And they will be providing IPv6 multicast in their network by May of this year. So they are turning on IPv6 at layer 3 for the retail service providers in the network. It's up to the retail service providers, the ISPs, to then put on an IPv6 service for their end customers. But the National Broadband Network is intended to actually provide a transparent IPv6, IPv4 and over layer 2 network to the 93% by fibre, and then eventually the rest of the country by satellite and wireless. So the only thing is that we have our national elections in Australia that have been announced for the 14th of September this year, and that will have potential impact because the government that may come into power if the government changes have actually said that they don't want a fibre to the premises network, they want a fibre to the node network, and things will dramatically change. So Communications Alliance, which is a group that I could speak about if I needed to, but they've been chosen to actually do an examination of these technologies and to actually compare the different policies of the different organisations, and that work is now underway, although quite controversial in the Australian marketplace. But this will have an effect on the ability of you as service providers and end users who are going to be using the National Broadband Network to actually have those services provided to you, and it will have an impact on V6 deployment in Australia in one form or another. The other thing that we're going to do is that we actually hold in the Australian IPv6 Forum in conjunction with the Internet Society in Australia and AI Group, which is the Australian Industry Group. It's a group of 42,000 companies and employers in Australia that are actually looking to expand the nature of what we do. So we'll probably change the IPv6 Summit this year for 2013, and we're probably, this hasn't been completely decided yet, but we're probably going to have an Australian Internet Summit rather than an Australian IPv6 Summit, and we'll have an IPv6 Day at that summit, but we will be looking at security and cloud and big data and the Internet of Things, mobility, sensors, green IT, social media, a whole range of different services, and we'll actually have widen the focus. It's the sort of feedback that we've been receiving from the people that we're going to do. The Australian Industry Group, which represents 42,000, I think I might have said that, but 42,000 companies in Australia that are members of that group, now have IPv6 on their governance map. And so they're actually looking at all of the different issues, and they position them on this matrix, and this is something that goes out to all of their members and something that they've developed. IPv6 is actually that little dot that's actually there. So there is, IPv6 is definitely in the governance model for enterprises that are actually out there, and they're beginning to see that they need to do something about it, and that's our opportunity. I'll just finish with this quote from Computer World. I've just gone a little bit over time, just from Computer World again, and I emphasise this is from 2009. It actually says Australia is one of the countries leading the way in IPv6 adoption according to the OECD, and a report which called for more networking operators around the world to follow Australia's lead as IPv6 is running out. But our challenge is we've actually lost that lead, there's no doubt about it. We're not deploying as fast as some other aggressive Asian and international organisations and countries, and we run the risk of falling behind. So our challenge from the forum and from the Internet Society and from other organisations who are actually out there is to encourage Australians to really come on board. So a very quick update from Australia. It's fairly maybe a challenging environment for us at the moment to deploy IPv6. But we're looking to rise to the challenge. Thank you. And I'll ask the next speaker to actually come up and join us, which is Ka-Ping Wong. Welcome, thank you. And Ping is with the Internet Secretary, I think, of the Internet Society in Hong Kong, and she's going to talk to us about. Thank you. Do you need that?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Ping Wong from Internet Society Hong Kong. Internet Society Hong Kong has organized around 30 events or activities on IPv6 since 2007. The aggregated number of attendees is around 6,000. Internet Society Hong Kong is widely recognized as the leading organization in Hong Kong dedicated to promote IPv6. Today, I'm happy to share with you a project we did last year. It is IPv6 in Action project. Promote IPv6 to general public and small and medium enterprises in Hong Kong. So what is IPv6 in Action project? This project is mainly sponsored by the Hong Kong government, and it is supported by over 30 partners, organizations, and sponsors in Hong Kong. And of course, we have some regional partners like APNIC and also Hong Kong IX. So the project objectives, it is to provide the general public and small and medium enterprises with a better understanding of IPv4 extortion, as well as what is IPv6 and why we do it. So we believe users can help push IPv6 to happen faster. It is a new approach to promote IPv6. IPv6 in Action project, IPv6 messages were translated into easy-to-understand messages to deliver to the general public as well as the SMEs. The project utilized a number of channels of promotions and activities, which includes, we built a multilingual IPv6 thematic website, and you can go to ipv6now.hk to take a look. And we have nearly 50,000 page views and over 12,000 visits. The thematic website was linked to by websites of a number of government bureaus and departments, includes the Education Bureau, the Communications Authority. And we produced 3 episodes of radio programs, and they were broadcast through digital radio and online media. 20,000 promotional leaflets were produced, and you can see it is some cute cartoon designed by famous local designer. And those pamphlets were distributed to nearly 250 locations and events around the city, including 100 secondary schools, 60 public libraries, 52 cyber district centers, and also throughout the events that we organized. 5 seminars targeted to youth, small and medium enterprises, IT teachers, and the general public, respectively, and a conference on IPv6 Launch were organized with totally around 800 participants. A booth to promote IPv6 was set up at the International ICT Expo and attracted an estimated number of over 5,000 visitors. A multilingual consumer guide for general public and SMEs was launched on the World IPv6 Launch Day, and this were deployed by at least 3 other Internet Society chapters around the world. So this consumer guide is under Creative Commons. If you want to make use of it locally in your country or economy, just feel free to let me know. Mouse packs, stickers, posters were produced for the promotion. We did 2 IPv6 surveys, and before and after the project, and we have over 900 responses for these 2 surveys. A video clip hosted by local celebrity was produced and aired on roadshow. Roadshow is a small TV screen on buses. So we can reach at approximately 1.4 million passengers daily. Interesting thing, one of them, is an animated video clip with cartoon characters was produced and distributed through different channels to allow easy understanding of IPv6. We have some simple flash game, simple online quiz as part of the Formatter website. We developed mobile application for iPhone and Android phones. So you can download it and then you can test the internet connection whether they support IPv6. Then we have 9 IPv6 directories and the Ipv6 forum launch as part of the Formatter website. First is the Hong Kong IPv6 enabled website directory. And in fact, it was launched back to 2009. And people just submit their website and the system will automatically test whether they are IPv6 enabled, and it will test periodically. We also have 8 other directories for home users and SMEs. For example, equipments, ISPs, and operation systems. These are all on the website. Because this project is targeted small and medium enterprises and general public, so we think that PR, marketing, is important to get the message out. Finally, we have around 38 media coverage generated with estimated circulation of over 2 million readership. So we got online media, magazines, dailies, many. As to conclude, we believe that this project is successful as a kickstart of another new approach to promote IPv6. We create demand, we create pressure to the ISPs, but we still need to do more. So next is about a quick update. Where are we now in Hong Kong? In Hong Kong, 7 ISPs are currently providing native IPv6 connection to corporate customers in limited scale. However, none of them provide residential broadband service now. For mobile operators, testing. Now at least 6 data centers and 2 web hosting companies support IPv6. For the government, to highlight, the Hong Kong Observatory has rolled out IPv6 NTP service since last year. And the next generation government Wi-Fi has been providing IPv6 connections since last December. In fact, most of the government websites are now IPv6 accessible. They even support IPv6 email transport. For universities, all have IPv6 transport enabled, but still need to do a lot of work on servers and infrastructure. So how about IPv6 certification in Hong Kong? According to Hurricane Electric, the top IPv6 stage economies, and Hong Kong is the 8th in the world, and we have 152 stages. And we are top in the Asia. However, according to the recent study by APNIC, though Hong Kong has a very high mobile broadband penetration rate and internet penetration, we still lag in IPv6 adoption. We start late, but we are catching up. We have been progressing faster than before ever since 2009. So, looking forward, we believe that the government should continue its support for the promotion of IPv6 deployment to the public, to businesses, to ISP, to the industry, and the community. Rollout of the IPv6 service by local ISP should be faster. And we believe that IPv6 training is important. So we will launch the first IPv6 forum certified courses in Hong Kong and partnering with IPv6 Now. Still a lot of areas that Hong Kong should work on in the promotion of IPv6, and there is still a long way to go. We need support. We need continuous support locally. We need continuous support from the community in the region. And let's continue to work together closely. IPv6 now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ping. We'll actually hold off questions until the end, and if we have time, we'll do questions, and if we don't, then you can see people in the breaks and we'll circulate and there'll be plenty of opportunity. I'd like to invite our next speaker to come up. That's M Agarwal, from who's the Deputy Director General of the Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Communications and Information Technology from the Government of India. And it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How to use that? You can use the right now. This is quick. Okay. Okay. Yeah, very good afternoon to you all. I'm thankful to the Asia Pacific Task Force for inviting me and giving me a chance here. Basically, in July 2010, Government of India has released one IPv6 roadmap, and of course, out of this roadmap, all major service providers were target. Just a minute. Madam. This is the old one. It's not updated one. Can we update? I'm having the updated one. Okay. Basically, I have revised this anyway. I'll continue with it. So basically, Government of India has already released one roadmap in July 2010, and this the main parts of this roadmap was we are having the three parts. The three-tier IPv6 task force was formed, and out of this task force, major service providers were to provide the IPv6 services, and out of those major service providers, already 9 out of 22 major service providers are already in a position to provide the services, and of course, all the central government organizations, state government organizations, and other public sectors in Government of India but to start services by March 2012. So out of it, this is the status of those government departments. Basically, 15% central government websites are ready, and 11% state government websites are ready. As you must be knowing, in India, we are having the dual federal system, state government and central governments. And of course, this task force is under the central government of India, Department of Telecommunications. As far as we are also planning to the pilot projects also. 17% central government department have planned to adopt the pilot projects and 20% for the in the states cases. And of course, auditing of the equipment is also very necessary because every vendor claims to be IPv6 ready, but definitely it needs to be audited. So we have planned the audited team also. So auditing of equipment have been completed in respect of central, it's 11% and 23% in cases of state governments. So, and in cases of transition teams, we have already issued one activity sheet. We have asked our central government organizations, state government organizations to form the transition teams. And transition teams have been formed in respect of the 14% central government and 32% in cases of state governments. So this is the nodal officers appointment, almost 100% as far as all the state governments are concerned, central governments are concerned. So again, coming to the point, we are also planning to have the IPv6 test bed. So test bed has already been installed under Telecom Engineering Center, Government of India, where equipment can be tested and certified. And of course, we also have released one national telecom policy in 2012, where we recognize the important role of the IPv6 implementations in the country. So basically, out of our experience gained during the first, after the first roadmap, we have done around more than 50 workshops with the central government, state government, service providers, content providers, the complete ecosystem we cover under the IPv6 task force. The major issue which we feel is the content, because service providers are ready, but they say that once we are ready, but until and unless contents are there, devices are there, what we will do with the services. So now we are tying up with the content providers and of course ICT equipment vendors and end user equipment providers, and we are holding regular meetings and workshops with these two different type of stakeholders also. And of course we find this training is also a very important role to play in the IPv6 implementations, not only in India but throughout the world. And for that purpose, we need to start IPv6 certified trainings under Government of India. And of course, as I told you, after having achieved considerable migrations after Roadmap 1, now we have approved the National Deployment IPv6 Roadmap 2. And these are the, and of course, Center for Innovations and IPv6 Skill Set. So I will come this National IPv6 Deployment Roadmap afterwards, but firstly, we have already approved one Center for Innovation in India. So the Center for Innovations for IPv6 implementations will be a one-point center for every item in the IPv6 implementations, whether it's a training, whether it's a pilot project implementations, whether it's experimental networks, whether it's a consultancy, and of course, as far as IPv6 skill set development also. So already we have approved the proposal. Now it is in the finalization stage, and I think in next 18 months time, this center would be there in India, which can be provided, which will be single point center for all IPv6 activities in the country. And of course, because India is a very, very big country, we need more than 5 million persons to be trained in next 5 years time. So one organization cannot do the complete job. So we are impaneling the organizations for IPv6 certified courses. And this we are going to complete in next 1 year time. Already we have adopted our expression of interest, and this would be completed in next 1 year time. And that way IPv6 certified training courses would be provided in India through these organizations, and that would be the world level courses. And of course, as I told you, we have already released one IPv6 deployment roadmap. So we were preparing for this roadmap, and we have made around 20 meetings with the service providers, state governments, central government, mandatory organizations, standard organizations, equipment providers, content providers, and all the equipment vendors we have taken into considerations. And the main important input of these important recommendations of this roadmap are basically these recommendations cover every type of the stakeholders. So firstly, we would cover the service providers, the enterprise customers. So for enterprise customers, the January 1st, 2014 is the target date to start the enterprise customers services by the service providers. And of course, after it, retail customers. So we have mandated, but these conditions, these recommendations are mandatory for service providers, and this would be a part of the licensing conditions. And of course, 30th June 2014 would be the time for service providers to provide IPv6 services to the customers. And of course, this is the timeline given for replacement of the CPs, because CP is not under the control of the service providers. So that some timeline, some external timeline has been given for them. And as far as wireless customers are there, LTE is there, GSM, CDMA customers are there. So definitely 30th June 2013 is the timeline for the LTE type of customers, and GSM, CDMA customers, it is the 30th June 2014. So these timelines are mandatory for our service providers, telecom service providers, ISPs, and so that they would be in a position to offer the services. But definitely they will give the services, but until and unless customers are having the IPv6 ready handsets, which I was talking to in the morning session to the Samsung, until and unless Samsung, Nokia and all world top equipment vendors are having the V6 ready devices, how customers would be able to access the V6 services. So for that purpose, and of course content is also a very, very important point. So we have asked all government websites needs to be completed by December 2013, and of course financial ecosystem. We have asked all our banking sectors, insurance sectors to be V6 ready by 30th June 2013. And of course, this is the timeline, and they are complying with this. All .in registration will be done by 2013 itself. And of course, mobile phone handsets, data users, as I told you, after 30th June 2014, no end user equipment would be able to sell would be able to sell only IPv6 ready equipment in India. In case if it is not IPv6 ready, they won't be able to sell in India. And of course, simply CPs. 1st January 2014 is the target to sell IPv6 ready component in India. And of course, for the government organizations, all government organizations, just 1 minute. All government organizations needs to deploy IPv6 in their networks, in their infrastructure by December 2017, because government is a very, very big user of the IPv6, and by December 2013 they need to make the plan. And of course, for the public services, internet citizen-centric services, 1st January 2015 is the target. And of course, we have already mandated that all government procurement should be IPv6 ready. And of course, end-to-end applications and testing should be done, and it should be tested by the TC certified equipment. And so this is the mandate for the government organizations. And of course, we are going in a big way for IPv6 based pilot projects also in India. And of course, for the skill set development, as I already told you, we are coming up with the training, specialized training. So, and of course, we are making a part IPv6 as a curriculum in our education sector. So, this is the all main features of IPv6 roadmap version 2nd. Basically, I have just, this is the very basic things of the roadmap. The roadmap would be released in just 1 month's time, and I would be, copy would be made available on our website, and I would be sent a copy to all of you. So this is the first time the government has done and mandated the IPv6 implementations in India. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was great, actually. Think about the size of the subcontinent, and that's really such a massive deployment. It'll be fantastic to watch it roll out as we go. Please join me with me in welcoming Youngsun, who's with the APNIC in Korea, which is part of KISA, the Korean Internet and Security Agency. So he's going to give us an update for the economy of Korea. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Youngsun from KISA, Korea Internet and Security Agency. Thank you for giving me a presentation opportunity here in IPv6TF session. I hope it helps you understand Korean IPv6 deployment status better, and I wish I can share more and more information in the near future. The time allowed to me is about 10 minutes, so I should handle it quickly, and some of the slides I should skip them. IPv6 strategy in Korea, we can divide it IPv6 activities into 3 main sectors: infra, service, and users. We are doing various activities shown here, but last year we focused on infrastructure, and today's PT is almost about them for infrastructure. IPv6 Internet Exchange, KISA, is operating IPv6 Internet Exchange node, we call it 6NGIX, and IPv6 subscriber networks, we call it 6Secretariat. And 59 organization has been built by now, and it's the only internet exchange point that for the native IPv6 internet exchange. So, because ISPs in Korea were not supporting IPv6 at that time, but there was a change. There was a meaningful movement. Finally, 3 major ISPs in Korea had reached the agreement on adopting IPv6 at their backbones in IXS last year. So we made it with a continuous discussion and meetings, and it is one of the big achievements we made last year. So when needs for the infrastructure, commercial environment already now. From here is about mobile network. SKT is our partner for IPv6 deployment at wireless networks. And SKT is #1 mobile telecommunication company in Korea. And the number of subscribers is about 26 million, and it's about 50% occupancy rate. So SKT is experiencing IPv6 address shortage problem, and also they have difficulties in handling NOT and double NOT. Those are backgrounds that they joined this project. I prepared a demo clip, but we don't have enough time to see it, so let me skip it. It's about 5 minutes long, and it summarizes what you've done last year. So please see it when you're free later. There's your URL address on the slide. From here, several slides show you how to implement the system and how to configure it, and describing some performance details. So let me skip them too. It's somewhat technical side for specific people. So if you have interest in those contents, please refer to the materials. This will show you overall structures, and it show you how to implement EPC systems, and there's a performance details on the right side, and how to construct wired networks and Wi-Fi networks. Okay, LTE wireless device test results. We tested whole devices in Korea to check the IPv6 support, and we found that only LG Optimus LTE is the only device that fully support IPv6. And of course, the test devices here are limited to products released in Korea, so please don't get wrong. Test results could be different with service providers. For example, with Verizon or T-Mobile, there are more devices supporting IPv6 than devices in Korea. And some of the devices here in this list, they have already IPv6 package inside the product. So it's just disabled. It means ISP prevents user from enabling IPv6 function for a certain purpose. Wi-Fi wireless device test results. In case of Android OS, when IPv6 address couldn't be acquired, then the Wi-Fi connection was lost. And to solve this problem, we should set a fake virtual IPv4 address in AP. And the second problem was that we failed to get DNS information. And to solve this problem, we should set DNS information inside the device compulsorily via routing. To provide IPv6 contents, we developed a mobile portal site, and we developed Android app, and it was registered in Google Play Store. NOT 6.4 and DNS 6.4 have been implemented in this project for IPv4 contents interconnections. Please refer to the details on the right side. Android app operation test with NOT 6.4. We tested several applications to see how it works with NOT 6.4 environment. Some of them work well, and some of them are not. And basically, generally web-based applications works well, but applications related to the authentications and network telecommunication and streaming services, those applications have experienced some abnormal operations. So we realized that we need more efforts in software developing in those particular services. After finishing the mobile network project with SKT, we could suggest scenarios for developing deployment Ipv6 in contents, network, and device, and wireless environments. And we also could throw problems and can suggest solutions for that. But LTE service with Ipv6 couldn't be commercialized. The biggest reason was that the Ipv6 traffic monitoring and traffic calculation and the billing system were not supporting Ipv6. So those are challenges that we should solve in the future. Fortunately, SKT is going to adopt Ipv6 for the commercial service independently. They are going to keep researching it. Ipv6 plan in 2013 is most similar to the plan of 2012. That what we are going to focus on is analyzing vulnerabilities in security equipment and benchmarking tests. We found that Ipv6 verifications and performance analysis on the Ipv6 security equipment is inexperienced, and that is one of the big obstacles for Ipv6 deployments. That's why we are going to focus on those areas. The other one is what we are focused on is supporting vendors to spread Ipv6 devices like such as smartphones. Okay, that's all I have today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. La. That was actually, there's so much content in that presentation. I think it would take an hour to go through all of it again. I'm still not sure whether a 0 or an X is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to, and if anybody else is interested, have a conversation, separate conversation with Mr. La. That would be great. Thank you. Our next presentation is from James Tan Kee Lim, who's with IDA Singapore. And is going to talk to us about Singapore. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. For IDA, we have been developing the Ipv6 transition program and running it for the past 2 years. This year is our 2nd year, and we have identified 6 different trusts. As you can see from the screen, first of all, we raised the awareness of the local industry by running conferences, as well as hosting a website to share with them the latest development of Ipv6 in Singapore. We have also created some initial demand by co-funding top-ranking websites in Singapore on their Ipv6 transition. To drive competency, we have identified or worked with a particular training provider to educate the local tertiary students on Ipv6, as well as the professionals. We are also monitoring the performance of Ipv6 and Ipv4 in Singapore to make sure that both are equitable in terms of performance, and continue to monitor the Ipv4 exhaustion as well. Okay, for the demand, we will see about at least 95% of the agencies public-facing websites ready by March this year. For the, we have also funded top 5 ranking websites in Singapore. Some of the popular websites like SG Carmark, Street Directory, Job Street. These are some of the websites that are Ipv6 ready today. And we have spoken to most of the local banks as well on enabling the Ipv6 for their e-services. And some of them will be moving to Ipv6 this year. On the supply side, we know that ISP are aware of the need to deploy Ipv6, but but many lack a business case. From IDA as a regulator, we had actually issued a policy to them to ensure that our local citizens can access IPv4 and IPv6 content by June this year. And we have a website that published at least 20 V6 vendor solutions, training and services to help the industry in selecting services for their IPv6 transition. In terms of awareness, we have conducted 2 conferences and 1 executive briefings in the past. We have a website that sends out quarterly e-newsletters to our local professionals. For competency, through a training provider, we offered IPv6 Forum Certified Silver and Gold courses. To date, we have trained about 150 professionals. But however, for the local IHL, that is to say the Institute of Higher Learnings like our polys and universities, we have trained more than a few thousands of them on IPv6. Just a quick recap on our past conference in 2012. Our conference focus was IPv6 business opportunities, innovations, and security. We invited esteemed speakers like Jeff Houston, Chief Scientist of APNIC, you know him, Tom Coffin, James Lin, and Eric Vikin from Cisco. We had also organized a forum for the financial industry, that is to say the banks, to discuss on their challenges on IPv6 deployment. Well, I think for the conference, we managed to reach out to wider industries like healthcare and tourism. And from the survey, many of them, or in fact most of them, believe that there are benefits in adopting IPv6 to ensure the business continues as usual. So 2 key messages from this conference is if you continue to invest on IPv4 today, you will lead to higher costs when it comes to refresh your equipment. So companies should consider planning for IPv6 upgrade. And the second message, of course, is to know, even though you are not implementing IPv6 today, your equipment might be shipped with the latest OS that support IPv6. So that could be inherent security risk that you may not be know of. These are some of the sharings that we did for the IPv6 conference. We created 5 YouTube videos. You can actually search for it on the YouTube. And moving forward, we'll be organizing an IPv6 innovation competition in 15th of March, that is to say next month. The competition is targeted at the students for the local polytechnics and universities. We invited guest of honor Dr. Latif, President of IPv6 Forum, to be the judge for this competition. There are 3 main categories for this competition, mainly application development, product design, and ideal contest. Of the 20 over received proposals, we have shortlisted 12 for this final judging. And since it's also open to anyone in the industry, so anyone would like to join us on the 15th of March, please give me a call. Okay, the key message behind this competition is to give the students a chance for hands-on on their IPv6 skills, because we have been training thousands of them on IPv6. So it's time for us to look at how, or new ways of potential services they can think of. Going forward, we have 2 separate new approaches. First is IPv6 security. Earlier I mentioned that, even in a pure IPv4 environment, there could be IPv6 vulnerabilities because your latest equipment could be dual stack. So what happened here is that we should educate the industries on the potential vulnerabilities that can come with IPv6 and advise them to start planning early. For services, it's very hard for us to convince the companies to deploy IPv6 because they need a business case. So it's also quite hard for us to, create awareness around it through examples of typical IPv6 deployment. However, if you can show potential new services that you can launch using IPv6, I think it will be a better showcase for the industry. I think that's all I have for today. Thanks a lot.
That's great, actually. Thank you. Our next speaker, that's the end of the economy updates, but our next speaker is going to talk to us on one of our 3 presentations for the remaining portion of this. So please welcome Jouni Korhonen, who's with Renesas Mobile Corporation and is going to also with the 3GPP, is going to talk to us about mobility and IPv6. Welcome.
Okay, hello everybody. So my name is Jouni Korhonen and I work for the Renesas Mobile. We basically are inside your mobile devices doing the LTE radios and application processors and so on. And I also have quite a long background on the 3GPP, IETF, and IPv6 and transition stuff. So today what we are going to do is a quick overview of the kind of recent progress in IETF related to transition mechanisms, what they are developing now. So IETF has spent quite a lot of effort already defining and shipping out technologies that some of them have already been deployed. And they are still working on a bunch of new technologies or kind of extensions to existing ones to kind of meet the deployment criteria of the different scenarios. And one of the current things is how to provide IPv4 access and extend IPv4 lifetime when deployed over ISP's IPv6 only backbone. So as said, we go through some of the recent activities and we are not going to kind of go through all the existing ones. So here I have the kind of evolution map of the different technologies. We have the old NAT-PT, configured tunnels, tunnel brokers, and the more right you go, the more recent technologies we have. For example, we have RFC 63333, DS Lite, it's done, deployable, maybe some already deployed. We have 6RD done, deployed, quite successful technology. We have NAT64, I forgot to put a bubble for it, but it's also deployed already. We have the MAP-E encapsulation technology, there's a running code for it. We have MAP-T, also running code for it, and tests been done on it. There's a XLAT done in IETF or in RFC editors queue, and even in this meeting we have a kind of test network running on top of XLAT technology. We have different variations of DS Lite providing IPv4 access over IPv6 and some provisioning mechanisms. And also this roadmap, I didn't put any of these transition technologies that have been developed in a mobility, IP mobility area like Dual-Stack Mobile IPv6, PMIP with IPv4 extensions, mobile and so on. You can use all of those to provide your transition, some transition mechanism. So what are the current trends on the recent work in IETF? So recently it's offering IPv4 end user service over IPv6 only connectivity, and making sure that the actual customer service has a dual stack, so IPv6 natively and IPv4 in some form. Extending IPv4 lifetime using some technology like address plus port, so you extend the address range with the port numbers, and also in certain cases you can kind of make the IPv4 number insignificant in a sense that you actually number your end hosts and your customers using the IPv6 transport that you have, and the IPv4 doesn't have any significant from the kind of transport point of view. It's mirrored there only to please the end host stack and so on. And pushing the NAT state out of the ISP network to the edge of the customer network. So making sure that the ISP network has as little state as possible. Mesh and hub and spoke modes, and also making the tools available for provisioning systems to configure these different transition technologies on CPs and so on. So now I'm going to go this very quickly through. So public V4 over 6 is kind of DS-Lite, but you have pushed the NAT functionality into CE, and it allows you also to provision public IPv4 addresses for your CE if you happen to have those. Stateless dual-stack Lite, basically what it does, it moves the carrier-grade NAT away from the ISP network and places a NAT function in your CPE device, so in the P4. It also has and extends the technology with the port ranges. Also provides an ICMP-based automated learning of this port ranging. So if the P4 is sending IPv4 packets with the wrong source address, the AFTR is going to send an ICMP back saying that you are using a wrong. This is the port range that you should be using. And this basically has only the address and port forwarding state per subscriber in the ISP network for the IPv4 addressing. Again, something similar, so lightweight 4 over 6. It's basically the same as the two previous ones, just a small variation. Again, using the A+B and right. Then this one we already talked quite much earlier this morning in the IPv6 plenary. So XLAT 464. One of the kind of beauties, so it's really nice fit in the mobile environment. I'm not quite sure whether it fits so well in the fixed lines, but at least from the mobile's point of view, it's an excellent technology. And one of these key things is the zero configuration from the operator point of view. You don't need to provision your devices for this technology. The only thing that you need in your network is the DNS and NAT64 function that you would have anyway. MAP-E and MAP-T, so similar type of technologies. They have the both translation and encapsulation modes. They allow having IPv4 addresses, also subnets on IPv4 on the customer network side. The key thing is that how they define the address mapping. So they have a well-defined way of algorithmically calculating the IPv6 address that embeds all this translation information that is then moved within the network. It also nicely works in the mesh mode, so these CE devices can talk directly if they have native IPv6 traffic or even this mapped IPv4 traffic. They just happen to be in the same map domain. It has a competitor called 4RD, which basically does the same, but from my point of view, it's a bit more hacky. It does some things that MAP-T cannot do, so has a bit more kind of expression power, but it goes in the gray area how it does it. So as a summary, there's still a lot of innovation going on, so there seems to be no limits what engineers can come up with. And some of these technologies, we know that they already are getting deployed, and some already have been a success stories. All right. Thank you.
It's a very difficult ask to ask someone to do a lightning talk like this in virtually 9 minutes. So there's such a wealth of content in each of these presentations. So they all deserve a lot more time, and we'll try to give it to them at some point. So, okay, it gives me my great pleasure in introducing our next speaker, who's a consulting systems engineer from Cisco Japan, Shishio Tsuchiya. Did I get that right? Yeah. Close enough. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Shishio Tsuchiya from Cisco Systems Japan. Today I don't explain such a specific technology such as MAP-T and MAP-E and 6RD. And I don't explain any product such as ASR9K and Nexus 7K. I'd like to introduce our website, Cisco IPv6 Deployment Statistics. The presentation, the slide explains IPv6 adoption lifecycle. What people will do when try to deploy the IPv6 in the network. People should get the IPv6 prefix from IRR, and then they should advertise the prefix on the network. After that, should make contents which enable the IPv6, and ISP should provide IPv6 service on the access network. And then end user have to have IPv6 enable the terminal. All of conditions will be prepared, the traffic will be growing. Measurement and analysis are important for people who is considering deployment IPv6 in the network. What kind of information provided on the Cisco IPv6 site? Here is our web page. Please open the http://cisco.com/start. It's displayed very graphically. If you put on the cursor on the country, you can see the IPv6 prefix adoption. And we are also select a country by the region. And we are staying Singapore now. And Singapore is Asia. And Southeast Asia. Singapore is very little country, so it is difficult to find it. But Singapore is today you can find Singapore today's IPv6 adoption rate. And also we can show the detailed information of each of categories. Here is the IPv6 prefix. Yeah, here is the IPv6 prefix. Ratio of routable IPv6 prefix data from BGP root view project. Ratio of allocated IPv6 prefix data from whose database of RIR. Ratio of alive allocated IPv6 prefix, we check the reachability from APNIC lab and Eric Bink site. We can also check the transit AS. If IPv6 transit AS means an AS, transit AS, both IPv4 and IPv6. And IPv6 enabled transit AS means an AS which is transit AS for IPv4 network, and which has a IPv6 prefix. And also we can check the web content. Alexa ranks the web content by page view and unique user numbers. And we are also check. For example, Japan has 27 site IPv6 enabled site on the top of top 500 domains. And in deployment and testing means, and they have a test domain such as ipv6.cisco.com, and they have working IPv6, but the main site is not working IPv6. And the failing means they have a QuadA record, but IPv6 does not work IPv6 site. And users, Google and APNIC measurement end user IPv6 adoption, and but the result is slightly different, but the country which Google is not #1 search engine, such as Japan and China, and the result is slightly similar. Yes. We have a lot of data in the site. Here is a summary. IPv6 status provides IPv6 adoption of each country graphically. The result, the data would be hint of IPv6 deployment plans of future for you. For example, this is user data. France is very high ratio of users, 4.85, 8.01. Free.fr provides 6RD and IPv6 CPE in default. As well as you know, Japan has a big problem in access network, but it looks good ratio, 2.17. KDDI AU Hikari provide IPv6 native internet service in their own access network in default. And many US service providers attending World IPv6 Launch, especially Verizon Wireless provide IPv6 IMS and internet in their LTE network in default. Why IPv6 traffic growth only just enabled IPv6 default? Because Windows 7, which is IPv6 enabled in default, exceeded than Windows XP, and most of the browser enhancement by RFC 6555, Happy Eyeball. And also nationwide IPv6 launch event would be useful for deployment. Norway did IPv6 day in nationwide. As a result, transit AS and prefix was growth. 49 sites has QuadA in the top 500 Alex site. It might need enable IPv6 access provider and CPE in default. Brazil also did IPv6 week in nationwide. Prefix rate is very good, and 49 sites has QuadA in the top 500 Alex site. But failing ratio is also high. As a potential reason, transit AS is very low. It should enable IPv6 core network as the next step. Also, Akamai IPv6 white paper would be useful to enable the IPv6 for content. Here is a source of our site. And here is a reference of our site. My presentation is ended. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Just while Phil Roberts is coming up, Phil's the Technology Program Manager for the Standards and Technology Department of the Internet Society, and he's going to talk to us about World IPv6 Launch 2012 and aspects of that activity. Phil.
Before you run off, how do I drive here? Yes. Beautiful. Thank you.
Every arrow.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to talk about our World IPv6 launch activity that we did in 2012. And I think there are three main things I want you to remember from this. First is that the World IPv6 launch activity was really a worldwide activity. We had participation from every region of the world. We had participation from Europe, from North America, and from the Asia Pacific region. Second, and very important, it was an industry-driven activity. This was not something that happened because governments told these people that they needed to do it. All of them looked at their businesses and said that IPv6 was better for their business. So not only was it better for the internet, but it was better for their business in the long run. And they agreed to get together and do something together in a collaborative way to move the ball forward on IPv6. And last, one aspect of this is ongoing. We did measurements through the end of 2012. Google, Facebook, and Yahoo measured access networks who were turning up IPv6. And I'd like to make it clear that we are going to continue those measurements through 2013. Google, Facebook, and Yahoo have agreed to keep doing those measurements. So if you work for a network that is turning up IPv6, you can go to the World IPv6 Launch website and register your network, and your network's IPv6 traffic will show up in the measurements that these folks are doing going on throughout the rest of the year. So, what was it about? Well, it was about access networks, websites, and home routers getting together to move the ball forward on IPv6 deployment. Access networks agreed to enable IPv6 for their end users. Websites agreed to turn up IPv6 by default, and home router vendors agreed to ship home router products that had IPv6 fully enabled and enabled by default, so that end users would not have to do anything to be using IPv6. It would just work. We hoped it would do three things. One, accelerate adoption. We hope that people would see this and see that there is a growing momentum with IPv6. And I think when I show traffic numbers a little bit later, you'll see that there is an acceleration of IPv6 adoption. We hoped that it would lead people to adopt IPv6 who had no plans of doing it. We hope that people would look at it and say, wow, all of these big brands are doing this, it must be safe now, it must be safe for me to do that. And we certainly see people continuing to add IPv6 to their roadmaps and to deployments. So we see that that has had that effect. And finally, we hoped that it would define IPv6 as the new normal for the internet. And I think it is almost safe to say that the internet is a v4 internet and a v6 internet. And IPv6 is just part of what we think about as the internet today. So access networks, they agreed to turn up IPv6 by default for new users. They made a commitment to have a certain percentage of their users active. With IPv6 by the 6th of June. These access networks were from around the world. In Asia Pacific, there were access networks from Australia and Japan who participated in the initial press release, and we've seen traffic grow in those regions since. Google, Facebook, and Yahoo measured this traffic, and we summarized those measurements on the World IPv6 Launch site. I'll show you a little bit of that in a moment. The traffic depends somewhat on end user equipment. If you've not got v6 capable devices in your home, you won't show up as using IPv6 even though the network is enabled, but you can still see that there is a substantial growth in IPv6 in these networks. These measurements are from December. Like I said, we did measurements on on v6 launch itself. Then each month after that, we did measurements. These measurements are taken by Google, Facebook, and Yahoo, and the numbers represent the amount of traffic coming to their network from these access networks using IPv6. And they're rank ordered sort of by size. We kind of mash them up. None of those folks are willing to share their numbers publicly, so we mesh them together to make something that is reasonable. Basically, 2 of the 3 have to be reporting something from the network, and it has to have some element of size. But this is generally reflecting a rank order in terms of size of IPv6 deployment, and the percentage is the percentage of the traffic that's using IPv6 coming from those networks. Home router vendors, Cisco and D-Link stepped up. A few others stepped up also. They made a commitment that their home routers, that the majority of the home routers they shipped after v6 launch day would have v6 fully capable and on by default. And finally, websites, certainly not least, but these 4 really major websites made a commitment that v6 was going to be available on their website and that they would have a pervasive deployment of v6 on all of their services, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, and Microsoft. Being stepped up, and they delivered. Many other websites joined. We made it possible for people to sign up. Certainly websites from all around the world have joined. And some really large websites turned it up, and we didn't know that it was going to happen. We didn't know that Wikipedia was going to turn up IPv6, but on v6 launch date, everybody noticed that, and they've continued to leave IPv6 up. Over 10% of the Alexa Top 1000 websites are serving IPv6 today. And as Cameron pointed out this morning in his presentation, there's a lot of traffic concentrated in the most popular websites. So if you're turning up IPv6 in your network, you should get a lot of v6 traffic just because of these major websites having turned it up. This shows a little bit of the impact of these event. This is a graph showing where websites have turned up IPv6. The actual world map graphic is a little bit messed up, so ignore that, but the part on the bottom is correct. And here are a couple of sample traffic graphs from AMSIX and DKIX showing the percentage of v6 over time right up through February of this year, and you can see that there was some growth going up to World v6 launch back in June, but it didn't just stop there. It's continued to increase since then. So what's next? I think the main thing that I want you to go away with is that we are planning to continue doing these measurements through 2013. Once a month, Google, Facebook, and Yahoo are going to run measurements of v6 traffic to their site from all of the networks that are in our database. So if you have a network that you're turning up v6 in, please go, join, sign up, and when we publish these numbers each month on the website, you'll be able to see where your network stands. And I think it'll be interesting, it will be interesting to see even the change from December of last year. We weren't able to do measurements in January and February. There was some retooling going on. But it will be interesting to see the change even from December of last year, because there have been some pretty big networks from around the world that have turned up IPv6 since then. So look forward to that next report. And we're very grateful that Google, Facebook, and Yahoo are continuing to share these measurements in a form that we can mash them up and make them available to the community. And we think it will be wonderful for networks who are deploying IPv6 to get their names on that list, so more people can see where IPv6 is being turned up. And if you happen to work for a big website that's turning up IPv6 and doing interesting measurements and would like to help out in this measurement effort, contact us and maybe you can help. So access networks, there are going to be more of them that are turning it up. I'm surprised because periodically I'll just notice that traffic in a country is growing. Eric Vink from Cisco publishes graphs of Google's traffic on a per country basis, and all of a sudden you can see that something has jumped on one of those graphs, and it's very exciting to see because people are just turning it up now. So I think that's all I have to say about it. I didn't see that my time was up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our allocated time, and we're about to be thrown out. So I'm going to defer questions at this point. I'd like to acknowledge the 25 participants that we have online and say thank you to all of them for joining us. Hi, wherever you are around the world. And there are 80 participants in the room, so we've generated quite a lot of interest in this as well. I'd really encourage you to seek out the speakers, download the presentations, all of which should be available to you from the APNIC website, APNIC 35 website, and to make yourselves familiar with the material and to contact, if not in the venue here, at least by email, contact the people who generated this. A great vote of thanks to everybody who shared their stories today, and thank you very much for coming along. And thank you to all the participants that were here. So that actually allows me to bring this session to a close, to thank Miwa for the work that she's done, and to thank APNIC generally for their support of the Asia Pacific IPv6 Task Force, and look forward to the next meeting and to continue exposure of this IPv6 journey that we're on. Thank you all for joining us today, and look forward to mixing with the speakers and with you as well. Thank you for participating. Thank you very much.